Welcome, everyone, to Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross. I am your host and your resource for self-care and mindfulness. And today we are tackling life's curveballs with Daryl Tanner. With 30 years in the startup business sphere, Daryl brings a unique insight to the table. However, it's his rich experience in Christian counseling that truly sets him apart. In his Amazon bestseller, Great Expectations Today, Daryl addresses key life challenges with humor, grace, and hard-won wisdom. So from mastering anger management to setting healthier expectations, he guides readers towards a happier and more fulfilling life. Daryl, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you, Laura.
So tell me, what is the driving force behind your decision to, put pen to Great Expectations Today?
Well, I've been counseling 30 to 40-year-old singles for several years now, and we meet once a week, and I'm also talking with them throughout the week. And there was a lot of angst, anxiety, depression on a lot of different issues in their lives. They stay very busy. They're single. They're out there, living the single life. And, after COVID, or during COVID and after COVID, there was a lot of depression, anxiety, and those kind of things. So we started talking about maybe setting better expectations. So as I would counsel them and talk to them about, just kind of being prepared and setting the right kind of expectations, they started saying, "Hey, this has helped me so much. Your thoughts have helped so much. You ought to write a book." And they, I've never written a book before, and I kept putting it off. And a couple years went by, and our church has a very large church. It has a benevolence fund. And I thought if I wrote a book and then I could donate the proceeds of the book to the benevolence fund, because that fund helps a lot of the divorced moms with kids and that need a little help every now and then, and people with issues, financial issues. So I wrote the book, and they carried it in a bookstore, and I just wrote it under the name of D. Tanner, initial D. Tanner, and I just put it on Amazon. And that's and now we sell the book in the bookstore, but I also give the book out in my class, and they like reading it because it's got a lot of my traveling stories in it and stuff like that. And they kind of get the idea that, if we do set better expectations on everything, it could help improve our life and make it happier. So.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And then that is quite the undertaking and the journey, writing a book. Did you find the process kind of effortless or challenging? And maybe can you share some of your experiences with that? Because I know a lot of us have talked about or been approached and said you should write it, but we're like, wow, not sure.
Yeah, it was for me, I'm not I don't know if you're a person that likes to get out and do stuff, like be out in the yard, do anything but sit. I'm not going to say I'm ADD, because I'm not. I read a lot, and I love to like study the Bible and just do a lot of fun things. But writing a book, I had all the thoughts and all the stories from travel, and I've told my friends some of the funnier stories about how I screwed up by. I go, I'm going to go get on this flight. It's going to be so much fun. And then flight would be canceled, delayed, have to come back home, whatever, And, but then sitting down and writing the book, I wrote the stories pretty easily because they had been telling them before, and they were kind of funny. People seemed amused with them. But then, when you start organizing a book, and then the publisher and KDP, the Kindle folks at Amazon, were very nice and all, but it was like, okay, you need to have maybe a thank you page, you have a table of contents. Maybe this should go before that, and I'm definitely not I'm not a technology person, so
Yes, we've had our curveballs recently with that, but yes.
Yes. Just try to get on the call and do, the right stuff and all that. But it was just that just killed me. I was like, because of my counseling experiences with stories I've heard with other stuff, because it was so much fun writing the book, and I was like, well, I'll write this book and this book and this book because of stories I've told. But then when I had all these titles and I was going to write other books, and then I started thinking, I don't want to go through this again. I don't think I will write more books, but the process, in my mind, and the stories were real easy, but the technology, the organization was no matter how nice they were, it was still tough because I had to read my own book like 20 times, and I was so sick of reading it myself, because they'd edit it, and then you'd read it again, and just anyway.
Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I co-authored and I only did a chapter in a book of a bunch of authors. So I can only imagine doing it because I had to write that and redo it. And then it went to editing. And next thing you know, it came back and I was like, oh, okay, that kind of sounds even better.
And what's funny
just
was
the way they put it in. And
I thought I knew where apostrophes go, but when it was on, they were like, no. And I go, well, I know it's been a while since I've been in high school, but it was just a funny process. So.
Yeah, it was only a few years ago I went back through because I had the benefits to go through college, and they're like talking about this. So I had my computer set up, so my computer will actually tell you, no, there should be a comma. There's too many commas.
Right.
It was a huge help. It was a huge help. But in your book, so you've actually included kind of a surprising element in your book. It's a discount on skincare products. Can you explain the connection between skincare and mental health?
Well,
And why that was
yeah. I
yeah.
mean, as a kid, I started off with like psoriasis or athlete's feet, psoriasis of the feet and legs. And then I had acne when I got into high school, and it really affected just about everything in my life. Because I mean, especially for high school kids, and then as you get older, like I used to work with this lady, and she would always get it's really the layman's term is a Rudolph red nose. It's you get a zit when you get emotionally stressed. And anytime we were kind of a sales team, and we would do demos or presentations, she'd get very nervous, and the night before she would get that zit right on the end of her nose, and it would drive. She'd always say, "I look like a wicked witch," and it would always drive her nuts. And I said, well, you just need to relax, and but she said, that doesn't do any good at all. And anyway, it's just I bought a skincare company about 5 years ago, and I bought it because my partner at the time, who's deceased now, but he was an older guy. He goes, I always get Rudolph red nose when anything's coming up, and he used this product a couple times on his nose, and it went away. And he goes, that is incredible. And it was like the old razor commercial where the guy would say, I love the shave. I bought the company. Well, the skincare products really helps with any kind of acne, warts, any topical fungal issues. It can cure pretty quickly. And so I put a discount in the book for anybody that wants to go try it. And that's a part of your mental health. It's your insides acting on the outside. And you'd be surprised at the people that I've helped with that have had addiction problems, or even if you're just, and this, if you've got a kid sitting home gaming all day, which they shouldn't be, but a lot of kind of senior high school into college, they do that a lot. And if you're not washing your face, and and then certain parts of the world where there's a lot of pollution, the skin gets ignored. So this is a product that you can put on your face, and it will both cleanse it and cure it, and pretty quickly. And so, yeah, I put a coupon in there to, since I was writing a book.
But it's a very good point. I mean, because especially if you're talking your high school, college, and your
Yes.
younger years and stuff, because when you're stressed, you already have problems. I had a guest on the other day that we were talking about bullying. You know, there's all this bullying and stuff
Oh,
going on and being ridiculed. And when you have stuff like that, you figure that just kind of makes you more of a target. So I can only imagine how, you know, you worry about how you look, it affects how you are. And
that's a
so,
great point. If you've got a zit, and kids, I remember when I used to have a date, I'd usually get one because I was stressing 3 or 4 days in advance, and quite frankly, I got grandkids that have, they get pimples, and they're like, they always tell me, Poppy, I'm using your stuff, you know. So, and it helps. I came out with a fever blister. So, when you start to get a fever blister, you can tell the pain. If
mhm,
you've done it, you had it
yeah.
several times. Like my mom is 98, but she's had fever blisters all her life, and she can feel them coming on, and she just dabs a little bit on it, and it kind of it doesn't come up, like it would. It gets a little
Where
pink,
it's pumped up
but
and
you
really
keep
big,
putting
and
it
yeah.
on, and then it goes away. So it's just a great set of products. So
Yeah, no, I remember when I was a kid, I actually had what they called infantigo, and I guess you can get it
yeah,
from like touching money or touching and it was
yes,
right here in the corner. I mean, you couldn't miss it. And I had to have put this Silvadine cream on it, and
yeah,
stick bandages on it. And if you can kind of play it off and say, yeah, well, you should see the other guy, just keep a bandage on it, look like you know. But and we got teas and stuff back then, but I think it's even more prevalent today than it
right,
was then. And yeah, that's
yes,
that's
yeah.
stuff we're very conscious about.
Yes,
But
very conscious. And by the way, it even cures ringworm. And my grandson was a wrestler in high school, and I don't know what it is about wrestling on the mats, but they got ringworm all the time. And this product, you just put it on there, and it goes away in a couple of days, because they couldn't wrestle if they had ringworm. So they'd
wow,
get it during practice. I'm not going to be able to wrestle on Saturday, And I was like, well, put it on there. It'll go away in a couple of days. And it
yeah,
would. So it's just a weird, your skin, it absorbs a lot. And then from the inside out, you push a lot out to your skin. So our bodies are so unique.
oh yeah, you have all those
Yeah.
pores, and you don't realize
Yes.
everything that just sucks into it. But
Yes. Yes.
and I know we're going to see more about that soon. But I got to ask you, since you bought the company,
Mm-hmm.
was it your name or was it someone else? How did they come up with toe juice for the name of it? I mean,
It was
that's
that.
just
Yep. That's a great question. I never liked the name, but the father was a chemist, and his son, the issues, just like me, started with the feet as a baby. So from like psoriasis to athlete's feet. And then when he got in high school, he said, Dad, my face is breaking out. I've got all this acne. And the dad said, go in there and get that stuff I mixed for your feet. And so they called it toe juice. And it's a 40-year-old product. I mean, it was sold in all the major retail stores, and at one time about 10 years ago. And what happened was some of the retailers started like slow paying, and the son didn't know how to manage the cash flow, built up inventories, and just got in trouble, and basically had to shut it down. And I found the product, and I loved it. And I ran into the guy here in San Antonio that owned it, and he's like, "Well, I've kind of been, thinking about selling the company because I've got other businesses now, and I bought it because I just loved it." And now we've got a women's brand called Dermavine, which is a softer kind of recipe formula of the toe juice, and then we've got a pet product called Ranch Remedy for pets, and it does the same thing. If they've got warts or even cuts and abrasions, you can spray it on it. And so it's got our own websites, and then we've got it on Amazon. So it's been a very successful product. We offer money back guarantee, and we never get any returns. It's
yeah, that
remarkable.
Rancher's Remedy. I love that where it says people tested, animal approved.
Right, because it
I'm a dog
was,
person, so I love that. And of course, here in Missouri, they can get ticks, and it can create, the sores and stuff on them, or they get hot
yes,
spots from the allergies.
that's
So
right.
does it work on all that stuff too, like the
Yes,
hot spots from the allergies from all the
yes,
pollen? And
yes. Even for horses, horses that stand in the mud all day, they get that white line on their feet, and it's basically from the hooves soaking in the mud and the moisture. It's like humans getting athlete's feet. So the ranch remedy, you just spray it on there, and you really should put sawdust down, something dry that the horses can stand in. But it's
right.
you know a lot of the humane centers, I cut them a big discount, and they use it for when they get a horse in that's got that, and mange and things like that, and they use it on the dogs and the cats. So yeah,
Yeah.
it'll
That's,
kill lice from the cat's ears.
oh,
So
really?
I
Huh.
get a lot of calls. Cat people. Cat people are funny. They're very. I mean, dog people really love their dogs, but cat people are very intent on. I get calls from women all over North America, saying, "Hey, Kitty is going crazy with lice in her ear. How do I spray it in
Mhm.
their ear?" And I go, "Oh no, you spray it in their ear, they'll be scratching you to death. You just put it on a Q-tip and then just rub
Uh-huh.
it around their ear, and the lice, it'll kill them or they'll leave." And
Oh, nice.
yeah, so it's kind of funny the calls I get.
I'll have to try that because I know every now and then with the ticks or whatever it is out here, he gets like really bad ear itching, and then next thing I know, they're giving me, and he hates those drops going down his ears.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. You just put some on a Q-tip
He'll
and just
sit there, and then
kind
he's
of.
like, you have to hold him still so he doesn't like beat the ears out, and
Right,
then some of the drops just go flying, and it's like
right.
okay, but
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
No, that is incredible that that you have all those things, and I think those
Thank you.
products are also natural and holistic, are they not?
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yeah. We use it's got like lemon bark, cinnamon, and the Dermavine is the natural ingredient in the product, and that's why I named the women's line. I named it Dermavine because they're always looking a lot. They care a lot more about that kind of stuff. When the guys are like, just give me something to get rid of this athlete's feet or the warts or the acne, and they don't care.
Right.
you know.
Right.
So anyway,
So I wanted to ask you back to your book here.
yeah.
Your book, anger management, is a key topic in your
hmm
book. Why did
hmm
you choose to shed light on that particular issue?
Well, for several reasons. I struggled myself with anger management when I was younger. My dad was in World War II, and I considered him a hero. But he was very hard. I was the oldest, very hard on me, particularly. And kiddingly, I used to call him Zorro because he could take his belt off quicker than anybody. It was just like, wow. And then, so I carried some of that anger through high school and college, and used to get in a lot of fights. And uh, one day figured out why I was mad. If some of these things were missed growing up, maybe. And as we get adults, it's it's not to our advantage to um, not accept our own behavior as our responsibility. We need to be accountable for what goes on in our life. So I counsel with a lot of people that have been through sexual abuse and physical abuse by a beating or whatever, continually. Verbal abuse by an ex husband that's was a narcissist or whatever. Um, so we need to be accountable, take responsibility for that anger. And I live in San Antonio. It's called Military City for a reason. I've got a lot of military people here. At our
I went
church,
to basic training down there. I was
yeah,
aware.
yeah. Everybody's like, "Oh, I love San Antonio. I was there for 2 years, or I
Yeah.
did my basic there."
Yeah.
And they don't see much of it. They see the river walk, and you know,
That was the
but
day away from basic
yeah,
training.
right. That one day, or weekend, if you were good.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of people that are carrying the PTSD from whether they're retired or not, and I tell some stories in the book about anger management and how to deal with it, and I went through some really great counseling, and I really tried to, in the book, as a resource, say, look, if you want some really great training, you can get it from this. We even, at our church, we even have a PTSD recovery group. We call it Hurts, Habits, and Hang-Ups, with people that have been abused and have abused. And then we've got our recovery groups for survivors of sexual abuse or physical abuse. So it's a great program. It's all free, and if you're come to the church, you can get that kind of counseling. But just thought it was very necessary. And a lot of times anger comes from our emotional stress, whether it's work, traffic, our previous life, we're carrying it. Maybe it was in the service of our nation. Thank you to anyone and everyone that served out there. But we have to be accountable for our own thoughts and our actions. And I tell a few stories in there about, people I've run into and that have run into me in anger. And you just don't know what the weight that someone's carrying. So you have to be very, very careful of, what you say and what you do, and being accountable. You can get help for that anger. And if you want to have a successful life, you're going to have to deal with it. I mean,
oh yeah.
Yeah. So that's why I just felt the big need, because a lot of the people, the 30s to 40s, they either are still blaming their past, maybe childhood, or they've gone through some kind of service to our nation and they've got some kind of anger from something. Even if you're raised in a great home and you get into a great job, if they treat you bad, or if you've had, it sounds like a spoiled child talking when they're complaining about what their issues are, because there's so many people that have so many other, a lot worse issues. You're sitting there going, okay, what is the problem here? You got, the boss didn't like you. You got fired. That's not well, you've still got anger to deal with. And if you don't put it to bed, then you're going to live with it. And then it's going to affect other areas of your life. So,
yeah, because you never know what's going to trigger you. And
yes.
A lot of us are always so quick to judge. You go out, and if you're, waitress or a waiter is like, really, you think, wow, they're really nasty. Well, maybe did you ever think to ask if they're okay? Maybe they're just having a bad day. But instead,
yes.
we tend to jump and complain about bad service, and it's like, maybe they're having a rough day.
I had a waiter one time, and a waitress, and she was having such a tough day, and you could tell because of our service. Mm-hmm. And just before she left our table, I said, let me ask you something. I know this may sound a weird question, but she goes, weird question, wouldn't affect my day. And I said, is there anything that we can pray for you for? And she just about broke down in tears and said, my little 6-year-old has had so many health issues. It's hard for me to come to work. And I said, well, what's his name? And we'll pray for him. And it just seemed to break that whole wall down. So as I tell everyone in my group, quit asking for blessings, ask how you can be a blessing.
Yeah.
So.
Very good point. And I know we have more to discuss and stories and stuff to share, but we right now need to take a break for a word from our sponsors. So we will be right back.
Hey, we got soul. Oh yeah, we got soul. Hi,
to introduce to you Toe Juice. Toe Juice is a topical skincare solution that cures many issues
like acne, ringworm, warts, athlete's feet, dry skin, bug bites, and more.
Toe Juice is a 40-year-old family secret that is guaranteed to help you with any skincare issues. Made locally in San Antonio, Texas, where we mix, package, and ship our solution wherever you may be. You can buy a bottle of Toe Juice through our website at toejuice.com, or you can check us out on Amazon as well.
Hello, my name is Peter. I'm a Dharma Master. I teach Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy. What kind of Qigong do we teach? Well, it helps you to get your mind into your body and your breath very quickly. We really start off with quite quick movements to help cater for the busy Western mind, coming into stretching out the meridians, waking up the chakra system and the danjons, coming into Jigan meditation, which helps you to really focus on the energy in and around your body, bringing you into that beautiful calm state where you can sit and meditate really easily, whereas maybe before you found it really difficult. So Qigong at the Bright Beings Academy will help you get more in touch with yourself.
So I was going to ask you before, but I think we've probably already answered the question, because I know you said you didn't want to do it again, because I was going to ask you if your readers could expect another enlightening book from you in the near future. But
Well, one thing I forgot to tell you was that KDP did such a good job. I don't know if you can see the book, but that was only the second cover they sent me, and I was like, that was the first thing they go, we got to have a cover, so pick. And I thought, oh my gosh, I'm colorblind. I don't know how I'm going to do this. And they sent that cover, and the first one I didn't like, but that one I was like, oh my gosh, that's perfect. And then I called my wife in. I go, hey, what colors are these? But it was a great experience. And yeah, I've had side businesses since I was like my first job, and so I'm almost finished. I'm finished writing it. Been going through the technology editing process for the last 2 months, maybe 3, and they're probably sick of me by now. But my next book's going to be called Side Hustle 101. It just talks about my mistakes, a lot of stories about the businesses that I've had, and then what I've had a lot of success with, which is basically been real estate, but as a side hustle, as a side business. So I've had my day job, and then so you have to think about, okay, what could you do when you're not, you've got God, family, and your job. So where can you fit another business in that's not going to impact you? And that's what I talk about. So
I was always of the mindset, when you can make your side hustle your
Yes.
which is basically what I've done, because it's better when you have control of your own time and you
Yes.
can make a difference. But you said you've had a number of them. So how has your experience in the startup businesses influenced the advice that you give in your book? I mean,
Well, I do tell a lot of stories, just in travel and areas where I've seen a lot of stress, and then my expectations from the book, Great Expectations Today. It's kind of funny because I started some businesses and I'm like, this is gonna be it, and it's gonna be the best, and I had this great ideas, but then I figured out that I really had to have a plan and a structure, and I had to think more about, and my expectations need to be more anchored in reality of, okay, now, Daryl, okay, you've never done this before, so it might be a little tougher than you're thinking, but being in sales, I'm always like the most optimistic. The glass is always at least almost full, and so. I've learned over the years to, swallow my pride, and I can't do
let go.
Yeah. I mean, like in my skincare business, social media is a big thing. And I talk about it in Side Hustle 101, but I mean, it's just, in the books, I just try to share knowledge with people to help them out and create a less stressful environment. And again, the money's going to our benevolence fund at the church. I mean, it's not like I need the money. I'm just trying to share with people, because you'll have a lot less stress if you set your expectations properly on anything you do, but especially on a side hustle, because like I said, you need to think about, well, in the new book, you need to think about your time and where your talents lie, and have you been successful before? And then, God, family, and your work. Will it interfere with your day job? Because your day job is the ocean that floats all boats in your life. If you lose the day job and you're relying on a side hustle that maybe was not as profitable as you thought it would be, then you're kind of sunk. I mean, so don't put yourself in that situation, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Don't have your eggs all in one basket.
Exactly.
You never know, because
Right.
sometimes you have no control over that day job either, and they pull the rug out from underneath you. So.
Right. Well, I lived in Houston back in the 80s when the oil crisis hit, when oil went from what they thought was going to be $100 a barrel down to about, I think it went all the way down to $6 maybe a barrel.
Mm-hmm.
And I had just gone from the oil industry into sales for Xerox technology, but no one in my neighborhood had a job. It was terrible. Everybody was laid off. I had a next door neighbor who'd been driving a heavy duty truck for Hughes Oil Tool for almost 24 years, and he got laid off. So,
yeah.
And everybody, I mean, it was so, and if you haven't ever lived through that, it's kind of like when the baby boom, I mean, the generation before me, my mom and dad, when they went through the Depression. If you've ever gone through the Depression, I mean, the people that went through the Depression, people know how they thought, because when they pass and you're cleaning out their closets and their house, you're finding stuff that they've been saving for the last 50 years that nobody cares about or anything. And if it's cloth, it just tears apart. But they were saving it in case things got really bad, like it did during the Great Depression. So the oil crisis for my wife and I really taught us to have hardly any debt, make sure you've got a nice fund saved or some kind of money put back. And, that's just something we learned early. So seeing all those people without a job is just, and no future. Now, for their future, they had basically, at the time, Houston was so devoted to the oil industry and had no other industry hardly at all. People had to literally move, and their houses couldn't sell for hardly anything. It was a terrible time. And our younger people don't know that today. They don't know what that crisis is. They've lived a pretty good life. I mean,
Right.
We've never had a serious financial crisis yet. So.
No, 2008 wasn't that great with the housing and stuff, but yeah, nothing like that. My grandma was the Great Depression stuff too. And you could tell, because when you go over there, it's like, she's got plenty of money, but her house would be freezing and she'd be wearing a sweater and a coat all the time because she didn't want to turn the heat. I'm like, you have plenty of money. That's what the heater's for. Or using a flashlight because she didn't want to run electric for the lamps to see the TV controlled. Or I'm like, it's amazing what sticks with you or gets ingrained with you when you've been through, stuff like that.
Yeah, they don't want to spend any money. I used to kid my mom about it, but she was like, I'm saving it for y'all. You're going to need it. And I'm like, well, not if we're doing what we're supposed to be doing, So anyway, it's a good story.
So you've spent many years working in Christian counseling with different age groups. How has all that experience shaped your perspective on life's challenges?
Well, today, I think we're more, the 30s and 40s of today are very different from my generation. My generation was, you got a boot in the butt and you got out and you started working, and if you didn't make it, that's tough. You're not coming back home. Yeah. What I've seen in the coming up, or the age that I'm dealing with, 30 to 40s, a lot of them have been coddled. And like sometimes I'm talking to them and they don't even understand personal finances. I think I'm not going to blame it on the education system, but I think we really have lost something when we're not teaching personal finance in the schools. I'm starting to see some of the schools now come back and teach personal finances. But if parents aren't teaching their kids personal finances, like giving them chores to do and letting them earn their own money and showing them the value of money, they don't have any idea. I mean, I cut yards. I cut 9 yards a week, and I had a job at the grocery store when I was a kid. And it's just it baffles my mind because, like, I was talking to a kid the other day who was just telling me how rough it was, and I said, well, "Okay, what kind of planning have you done?" He goes, "What do you mean by planning?" I go, well, "Okay, how much do you have a rainy day fund?" What's a rainy day fund? I mean, I was like, "Hey, how much money do you have in your checking account?" You mean my bank account? I go, "Yeah." I said, "Checking? Do you have a savings and checking, or just checking?" Well, what's the difference? And I was like, "Oh my gosh, this kid's 30. He's 32, and so, but I talked to a lot of them, and a lot of them are like that. So it just concerns me. And I love this age group. I love the 30 to 40 singles. My daughter was in her mid 30s when she had to go through a divorce with 2 kids. And that's why I am pretty devoted to focusing on this age group. So, and I start these community groups where they're in community with each other. And, after COVID, I think the nation kind of realized that we need each other. But the Bible has always clearly said that, God created Adam, and he said, "Hey, you're alone. I need someone. You need someone." So then he created Eve. Now, that didn't always work out, in the future, but before sin came to the world, he was happy that he had Eve. And I tell our groups that you may feel like you want to be alone, but that's, you weren't made to be alone. So you're always going to feel empty. So that's why I get them in their groups to study the word and talk about, anxiety and what they're dealing with today. So,
yeah, people really weren't designed, to not have interaction
right
with others. So,
exactly.
and these platforms help, but it's still not the same as being in person. But it's definitely a step up, instead of just being by yourself.
Right.
So your book is filled with funny and serious stories from your own life. Did you find it difficult to share those personal experiences with the public?
No, I'd been telling those stories for a long time. Entertainment, or just I mean, I travel pretty hard for. I've been working. I left home when I was just turned 16, and kind of been working on my own. So I just have, I can just pull a lot of funny stories out of it. Some of them funny, some of them not so funny, some of them where I screwed up, some of them where I was blessed, But it was kind of fun to write a lot of them down. And in my new book, The Side Hustle 101, I'm telling several family stories, and I have 36 first cousins, and today I think several have died, but I've got about 31 alive now, and I enjoy talking with them, and we tell stories. And so if you come from a big family like that, you just have a lot of family stories, some funny, some not so funny, and then you've got what you're growing through and the things you've done. And being in sales, I've just had a lot of I work with a lot of funny people, and just real characters. So mm-hmm. I had an uncle who's passed now, but he reminded me of Yosemite Sam, the character with the cowboy hat, the long mustache, the guns, the old cartoon, and he even talked like the Yosemite Sam. And he was just such a character that when you have characters like that in your life, the funny part about that story is he actually owned how's the right way to say this? He owned a prophylactic factory that made condoms.
Okay.
Back when people didn't know condoms. I mean,
Right.
it was unheard of that you had to wear them. I mean, these days you got all these sexual diseases. I think most of the singles that I'm sure they're wearing some type of really fancy condom. But back then, my uncle was out there installing machines and gas stations that you could go in. The men go to the bathroom and he goes, oh, I'm gonna need that condom. It's this girl, and, whatever. I mean, it's a terrible story, but that was the kind of guy he was. It was just that kind of life, and he was just. And when he'd come to visit us in San Antonio, he would always leave them for my dad. My dad's like, I'm married for 50 years. I don't need condoms. So he'd get my brother and I would go out in the front yard and we would use them for water balloons. And my dad goes, I don't care what you do with those. You can use them for water balloons, but they ain't better. You better pick up every piece of rubber in the yard. So,
Wow.
I was like, well, Dad, why don't I just cut them up and with a lawnmower? He goes, no, you ruin the lawnmower. You pick them up. So after a massive fight with the neighbor's kids and all, then we'd all be out there with a bucket trying to pick up the shards of rubber condom all over the yard. My mom goes, I don't want to see one of them out there. So
that can bring a whole new meaning to TPing somebody's house too if you're playing those kind of pranks.
Right.
I remember those coming out and really kind of starting to be a thing where they started doing commercials in the mid '80s to say we have an issue going on, and
exactly.
That would be funny. So what advice would you give to someone who's struggling with setting better expectations in their life?
Well, I would say do yourself a favor. You want to live a fulfilling life. You want to have a happy life. So whether you're going out whether you're taking a trip, a day trip or whatever, or you're getting in the car to go to work, or you're heading to church, or you're going out on a blind date, or going to a party, do yourself a favor and set the right expectations for whatever that is that you're going to be doing. Because if you don't, you can meet the biggest loser of your life, or you can meet Prince Charming. So setting those expectations is to think about, okay, have I ever met these people? I'm going to a party where I'm going to know one person, a friend that invited me to go to this party. I'm a girl, she's a girl. We're going to go as friends and then try to meet other people. So I think, 30, 40 single group, they're single and they're very optimistic because they're young in life, but what's in store? You just don't know. I mean, you could be going to a party and have an accident on the way to the party, or have a flat tire, or like I said in my book, I'd go to the airport. A lot of times the flight would be massively delayed. And I've seen guys stand at the counter and yell at the ticket agent about the plane being late. But, they would always calmly say, sir, we can't control the weather. And if the plane was coming from Miami to San Antonio or Houston, I lived in Houston for 30 years and used to fly out of the big George Bush Intercontinental Airport a lot. People think they're, you get the idea that you're somewhat privileged, whether you're a medallion flyer or a super platinum flyer or a lifetime flyer, it doesn't matter. When you get to the airport, if there's a problem, or if they've got to bring the plane back to the bay to repair a seat, or some kind of issue that the plane might not be flying, you need to be prepared for that. You just need to set the right expectations for any, meeting, event, whatever. And I tell several stories about my life when I just had, young and dumb. I had those expectations. Hey, man, this is going to happen. It's going to be great. And then I get there and, wasn't exactly what I thought. And it really put me in a kind of a little depressed. I mean, I'm not a guy that gets depressed though. But it kind of made me feel bad for a few days. And I always thought about it because of what happened. So.
Yeah, being able to pivot is huge. I've been at the airport before where people are getting so upset and angry because they're waiting for a part to fix the plane.
Yes.
I'm like, okay, do you really want to be in the air if it's not mechanically sound? I mean, being on the ground is a good thing instead of falling out of the sky, I think. But,
Right. Exactly.
but it's like, it's not the end of the world. You just get there a little bit later, or you find another flight.
Exactly.
It's an inconvenience, and we're not big on being inconvenienced, I don't think. But,
Right.
I think there's worse things you could be experiencing than an inconvenience.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but in your opinion, how can one effectively fight against like the anger that creeps up? Like you said, people get angry with this stuff unexpectedly in daily life.
Yeah. I mean, I think assessing the situation, like I've always thought of the holidays as great, but in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, oh, I hope we don't have to go over there. I hope I don't have to see that aunt that always smears me with makeup and bad perfume, or,
Cheeks.
yeah, I hope I don't have to see this person because they've had a lot of issues. I would say open your mind up to not to looking for a blessing, but again, being a blessing to see them and actually talk to them. Like I've got a person in my family that just looking at them, you would think, oh, I don't even associate with that person. But when you talk to them, they've got a real intellect, and they're very talented, and they're very loving, and they've got some great opinions. So what do you miss? What do you, when you stand back and don't want to approach that, what are you missing? You're missing a lot. You're missing the joy of knowing really who that person is under that skin. And if people would just take more of an open mind, set the expectation that, hey, I'm coming in here, things aren't perfect, life's not perfect. I will try to be a blessing. I mean, I learned a lot of that from my mom. My mom was she's 98 today. She's still driving, doing her checkbook, going to church, reading her Bible, but she approaches everything with the idea that, I always call her, I go, Mom, what are you doing today? Well, I'm delivering some cookies to the elderly. And I go, okay, Mom, you're 98. What are you doing out driving around again? But if you want to live a more fulfilling and happier life, it's about being a blessing. It's being about setting the proper expectations to say, today, I'm going to bless someone, and expecting, okay, what is this situation going to look like for me to walk into? So I think it can help so much with people, and just to be more happy and fulfilled. So
absolutely, it's just having a different perspective, and like you said, an open mind.
Yes,
exactly. And for me, I think it's a lot's taking out the judgment.
Right.
Stop. None of us are perfect. So,
Not at all. Not at all.
I tell people, I am perfectly imperfect. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we have a few minutes left. What would you like to leave the audience with?
Well, to really look at your life and see where you are today, and see again maybe how you could be. How happy are you? Are you fulfilled? I can tell you this: that we weren't made to be alone, and I think our Creator, our Lord, has given us a feeling that we need inside, not only for Him, but also for deep friendships and community and helping others. And would love to see you be more happier and fulfilled, and by setting proper expectations and looking to others to share in the blessing. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I know you are in San Antonio.
Right.
How is the best way for people to connect with you or contact you?
Well, you can go out and buy the book. My contact info is there. dtanner03@yahoo.com. And the church I attend is Community Bible Church, and they have CBC San Antonio, or Community Bible Church San Antonio. They have a great YouTube program. You go to YouTube and just search it, and they're live Saturday nights, and they got 4 services on Sunday. We've become, I think, the largest non-denominational church in the South, kind of the South Texas area. So really would love to be able to share that story and the sermons with the audience.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have any new startups or plans on the horizon since you've done so many?
No. I am tired. My real estate, I'm still doing investments, and those are growing and enjoying that. But in the future, in the next probably 3 to 4 years, I'll probably sell the skincare company. I've had several people interested in it in the past. But gosh, let's just say I'm in my mid to late 60s. So my wife's always given me issues of, hey, when are we going to take a trip? When are you not going to be bothered? When are people going to quit calling you? And, I kind of retired from software sales several months ago, but it seems like I've been just as busy as I'll get out since I retired. So, now I'm like thinking, okay, I need to really think about this, getting rid of this and moving on. So, but I'm going to continue to write. I love the process of telling stories and focusing on something. And my next book after Side Hustle 101, I'm about finished writing it. It's called Am I Suitable? And it's just talking about self-worth and a lot of the things that I've encountered with the 30 and 40 crowd. So, I write smaller books because the crowd that I have, they're used to TikTok and texting and everything else. They're not going to read a longer book. And they told me that. They go, don't make it more than like 70 pages. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll keep it lower than that. Don't worry.
And it's funny how I've gotten to be the opposite. I used to hate reading, and then I started reading all these self-help or self-improvement books, and then I started knowing all these authors, and it's like, okay, now to me that's more interesting because I can actually hear that person's voice when I'm like reading the book, and it just kind of makes it that much more interesting.
That's neat. Yeah, I mean, I had many more stories I wanted to tell, but I kept thinking about my audience of, mainly that age group, and giving them the book and having them really read it. So anyway.
Well, it's a beautiful thing you're doing, and I'm happy, and thank you for taking the time to sharing all that with our audience.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience with me getting onto this. That was my first commercial ever with the skincare line. So some guy looked at my company. I told him, he goes, "You don't do anything on social media." I go, "I don't know anything about social media." He goes, "I think we could really grow this company." I go, "Well, be my guest."
You're hired. You can do it for me. Here's the stuff.
I don't want to do it. So.
Well, and we talk about that too. Being mindful, and when you're doing a business, know what you're good at and what you're not.
Yes.
Hire
Side Hustle 101.
Yeah, there you go. You can add that into your side hustle. It's like, yep, know what you're good at and hire out what you're not.
Exactly.
Well, thank you again for joining us.
Thank you, Laura.
And everyone, as always, please go to the YouTube channel, Mindful Mondays with Laura Cross, like and subscribe. So that way you can catch the replay of this with Daryl Tanner. Make sure you get a hold of his book, Great Expectations, today. And I will say real quick, as soon as I saw that, it reminded me of my high school years because I had to read Great Expectations, but it was with Pip and Miss Havisham. This is Great Expectations today. So It is a slightly different book. Yes. Very different book, I should say. Yes. But thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you.